You ever stumble on something that you just know you weren't supposed to find? I didn't go looking for ghosts. I wasn't chasing some thrill. I was just helping clean out my uncle's house after he passed away. That old man lived alone out in the country. Small house, no neighbors close by. The kind of place that always smelled like dust and wood. He'd been a groundskeeper at the local cemetery for nearly 40 years. Always told people he liked the quiet. When he died, the will said the house went to me. No family really fought it. They probably didn't want to deal with it. So I drove up expecting a weekend of boring old boxes and rat droppings. What I found was something else. Old furniture covered in sheets, a fireplace filled with ashes. In the study, I found this drawer in his desk, locked, heavy and old, older than the desk itself. It looked out of place, like it had been moved from somewhere else. I searched for a key but couldn't find one, ended up forcing it open with a screwdriver and a little too much effort. Inside, there was just one thing. A map, hand-drawn, faded with age. The kind of map that makes you squint a little. I saw lines, square boxes, looked like grave plots. At the top, written in block letters, Hollow Creek Cemetery. That's the one just down the hill from here, where he worked. But what got me weren't the plots. It was the notes. Some plots were circled in red ink. Some had big marks. Others had messages written next to them. Do not touch. Watch the ground. Still restless. Silence at night equals bad. And one, just one, had a skull drawn next to it with a name scratched out violently. I laughed at first, thought it was some kind of weird hobby or joke, but then I flipped the paper over. There was a note in my uncle's handwriting. If you find this map, do not disturb what's marked. Burn the map and leave this place. Burn it? After finding something like that? Nah, I folded it up, stuffed it in my backpack, and figured I'd check it out later. Curiosity, right? That was my first mistake. Next morning, I woke up early. Don't know why. It was that kind of quiet that feels too quiet. No dogs barking, no birds, no wind. Just this stillness pressing against the windows like it was waiting for something. I grabbed the map. Something about it kept pulling at me, like I needed to know what it meant. Curiosity again. Stupid, right? I walked down the hill to the cemetery, map in my pocket, figuring I'd take a look around before breakfast. The gate was rusted but open. No locks, just a heavy creak as I pushed it. The place looked forgotten. Headstones tilted, some cracked in half. No fresh flowers, just weeds and a few patches of dirt that looked too fresh to be recent. I followed the map like a treasure hunt. Matched rows, checked names. Some of them were still there. Others were just stones with faded marks. Then I found one of the spots that had a red X on it. Plot 14B. No headstone, just a mound. No grass on top, just loose earth, like it had been disturbed not long ago. And the worst part? No name. Nothing to tell you who was buried there, just silence. And this heavy, wrong feeling, like the ground didn't want me standing there. I backed away, didn't touch anything. I remembered what the map said, do not disturb, but I kept going. I couldn't stop myself. I found another marked grave with the note, watch the ground. That one had a broken statue of an angel, its face missing. The ground around it was cracked like the earth had split and tried to seal itself again. And then I got to the plot with the skull mark. It was tucked behind a twisted oak tree, almost hidden. The stone had been snapped in half, like something had tried to tear it out of the ground. No flowers, no offering, just rot. And behind it, half buried under dry leaves, was a small wooden box. I didn't open it, not yet. I bent down, brushed the dirt off the box and saw something carved on top, shallow, like done with a knife. You dig, you die. I froze. Was this real? Was someone messing with me? Why would my uncle keep a map like this? Why mark the graves? Why warn me to burn it? I stood up, heart thudding like a drum. My head spun a little. I felt watched. Then, very faintly, a figure standing deep in the shadows between two graves. Gone when blinked. I left the cemetery. Didn't run, didn't dare. But when I turned back at the gate, I swear, that broken statue, its head was turned toward me, and it wasn't before. That night I didn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw graves, cracked earth, that wooden box with the warning carved into it. I kept the map beside me like it could explain itself, stared at the red marks, trying to make sense of it. But it was just ink and old paper. It didn't speak, it didn't move, not until the scratching started. It came from the far wall of the living room, right behind the bookshelf. At first, I thought it was rats. This house was old, wouldn't be a surprise. But it didn't sound like rats. It was too slow, too deliberate. Scratch, pause, scratch, scratch. I stood up, grabbed a flashlight and walked to the wall. Pressed my ear against the paneling. It stopped. Then something scraped on the other side, down low, like just beneath the floorboards. I stepped back. The flashlight flickered, and that was when I remembered what one of the map notes had said. Silence at night equals bad. I didn't know what that meant before. Now I did, because the scratching had stopped and in its place was silence. Too quiet, not even the wind, not the insects, just the sound of my breathing. Then a new sound started. Voices, low, layered, coming from the direction of the basement door. I didn't even know there was a basement, but the door was half open now, and I never opened it. My flashlight dimmed again, then went out completely. I backed away, heart pounding, feeling the cold press in. There was a shift in the air, like something had entered the house. I couldn't see it, but I felt it. Something in the walls, something watching, something that knew I had the map and didn't like it. I slept in my car that night, or tried to, but even there I kept hearing it. The scratching, not outside, not on the walls, from underneath the car. I should have left. Every part of me was screaming to leave that house behind, to burn the map like my uncle said and never look back. But something had changed. It wasn't just fear anymore. It was pulling me. That cemetery, those graves, that box, I couldn't stop thinking about them. Like they were inside me now. So the next morning I went back. I walked straight to that grave with the skull mark, the one behind the twisted oak tree. The wooden box was still there, half buried in dirt, cold to the touch, lighter than I expected, like it was mostly hollow. I don't know why I opened it. I think part of me had already decided I wouldn't leave until I knew. Inside was something wrapped in black cloth, carefully, like someone took time to hide it, but not destroy it. I unwrapped it, hands shaking. It was a jawbone, but it wasn't clean. It had bits of dry skin still clinging to it, and tucked beneath it a piece of brittle paper. Put it back, or it follows. I dropped it and stumbled back, heart hammering. But it was too late. The wind shifted, the trees groaned, and I swear, the shadows around the grave got darker, thicker, like they were folding inward. I ran, didn't look back, didn't breathe until I was back inside the house, box still in hand. I didn't even realize I brought it with me. That was my second mistake. From that moment on, things started falling apart fast. That night, the walls didn't just scratch, they banged. Loud, violent hits, like something trapped behind the drywall was trying to punch its way out. I turned on every light, checked every room, nothing. But when I looked at the mirror in the hallway, I saw something that wasn't in the reflection before. A shape, just for a second, tall, thin, its head cocked to the side like it was listening. When I turned around, nothing. But the mirror, cracked from corner to corner. I buried the box in the woods that night, deep as I could dig, didn't matter. Next morning it was back on the porch, dirt still clinging to it, like it had dug itself out. That was when I knew, whatever was marked on that map It wasn't just graves, they were traps, and I had opened one. The knocking started at exactly 12:03 a.m. 3 slow knocks, heavy, deliberate. Not at the front door, at the back wall of the house. No door there, just siding and brick. But something was knocking. I didn't move, just sat in the armchair, holding the flashlight like it was a weapon. This time closer to the floor, like it was crouching. I stood up, and then silence. Until the hallway lights flickered and I heard something worse than knocking. Footsteps. Inside. Bare feet slowly stepping on creaky floorboards. Not fast, not rushing, just calm, confident, like they already knew where I was. I backed away, breathing hard, grabbed the map off the table. It was warmer now, like it had been sitting near a fire. I looked at it again, desperate for some kind of clue, and that's when I noticed something that hadn't been there before, a new mark, drawn in fresh red ink. But this one wasn't on a grave. It was in the corner of the map, where my uncle had written the layout of the house. The living room, circled, labelled, "It starts here." All house lights snap off at once. Total blackout, whispering begins. I ran to the fuse box. Nothing was tripped, but the hallway was darker than it should have been, like it swallowed the flashlight beam. That's when I saw it. It didn't move, but its shadow did, sliding across the walls like ink in water. I blinked, and it was gone. Except there was breath on my neck. I ran outside, didn't lock the door, didn't look back. I stayed in my car again, shaking, gripping the map with both hands like it could protect me. And sometime before dawn, I finally passed out, but not before I saw it again. It just stood there, watching, waiting, and behind it, dozens of others, all standing, all silent, all facing my house. When morning finally came, I stepped back inside the house like I was entering a crypt. Everything felt wrong now. The floorboards were darker, the wallpaper peeled in long strips overnight, the air had this sour, earthy smell like something had died in the vents. And the map. It was changing. Not just new marks. New writing. I laid it out on the table, staring hard. The cemetery section was soaked through from the rain, but the ink hadn't smeared. Instead, some of the red X's were now names. Names I recognized. My uncle's. And beneath that, my father's. He'd died when I was a kid. They said it was a car accident, but there he was. Plot 7D circled, red ink, and under his name, mine. Not a future date, a past one, last week. Same day I arrived. Sudden burst of wind through the house, windows rattle. I dropped the map, heart hammering so loud I thought it would crack my ribs. What the hell did this mean? Was this a curse, a warning? Or was I already... I remembered something then, something buried deep. When I was maybe 6, I came to visit this town once, just once. I remembered the cemetery, and I remembered seeing my uncle digging late at night, digging something up, not burying. I thought it was a dream, but what if it wasn't? What if this had all started then? I went back to the cemetery. Middle of the day this time. Sun out, birds singing. Didn't help. The place looked even worse in daylight. Graves sagging inward, dirt shifting, like the dead were breathing underneath. I followed the map to plot 7C, my dad's grave. It was real. The marker was cheap, newer than the others. But my last name was etched there, barely visible under the moss. I dug. I know how that sounds, but I had to know. Had to prove something. To myself, to whatever was watching. The soil turned darker the deeper I went. Thick, almost black, wet like clay. Then I hit it. Not a coffin, a sack, wrapped in burlap, bound in rusted wire. I pulled it out, sweating and shaking, unwrapped it. It wasn't my dad. It wasn't even human. It was a collection of bones, animal maybe, but they were tied together into a shape, a mock body, and jammed into its skull socket a folded paper. It said, "You've been dead before, remember?" That's when I heard it.
Welcome back.
I turned, and there, across the cemetery, every single grave marked on the map stood open, not dug up, opened, as if something climbed out, and they were walking toward me. I ran. I don't remember how long or how far, just trees and shadows and the sound of leaves breaking beneath my feet. But no matter how far I went, it felt like the cemetery kept following me, like the trees were the same. The air never changed, and behind me, the footsteps never stopped. When I finally collapsed against an old fence, my chest felt like it was full of glass. Every breath hurt. That's when I looked up and realized I was standing at the edge of the cemetery again. The same one. The same leaning oak. The same open graves. Time wasn't moving right anymore. It felt folded, tangled, like the map didn't show where the graves were, but when. I stumbled back into the house, dragging the map behind me like a corpse, and that's when I noticed something. The ink. The black lines on the map, the roads, the property borders, they were fading. But the red marks? They were spreading. New X's, new names, names I didn't know, names I hadn't seen before, until I opened my phone and saw a notification, an obituary. Someone had died in town that night, a man named Walter Hemsley. I didn't know him, but his name was now on the map. And worse, there was a second name below it. Mine, again. He remembers you. I froze, because Walter Hemsley wasn't the only one. Every name on the map, every death. It wasn't random. They were all connected. They'd all been in this town before. All had seen the map, and all of them had written one thing in their journals, if they kept one. I saw them. They saw me. That night, I saw them again. Outside the house, in the tree line, in the field, watching, not moving. But this time, they brought something with them. They brought my uncle. He was dead. I knew he was dead. But there he stood, half lit by moonlight, eyes black, hands shaking. He held up his own version of the map, burned, torn, stained with blood. And he said one word. Remember. The house groans deeply, floorboards creaking from weight that isn't there. Then they were gone. All of them. Vanished into the fog like breath. And I stood there, gripping the paper so hard it tore. Because I did remember something from when I was little. A moment no one talked about. The week after my dad died, I vanished for 2 days. My mom said I'd wandered into the woods and gotten lost. But when they found me, I had dirt under my nails and something in my pocket. A scrap of map paper. Same kind, same red ink, same symbol. A coffin with no lid. I hadn't found the map by accident. I had been part of it all along. And whatever climbed out of those graves, they remembered me. Because I had been with them once. I just didn't know it until now. He was dead. I knew he was dead. But I saw him with my own eyes. My uncle, standing in the field with the others, holding a burned version of the same map I'd carried, whispering a word I hadn't heard in years. Remember. And then he vanished. Not walked away. Not faded. Just gone. Like fog in wind. That's when I stopped pretending this was just about a haunted map. This wasn't about death. It was about what came after. I locked myself in the study and pulled out everything I had. Old boxes, newspaper clippings, town records, even yearbooks from the local high school. And there it was. A name I'd never looked for. Walter Hemsley. The man from the obituary. He used to be a school janitor in the year I went missing as a child. And then I found another name. A nurse at the hospital. A woman who vanished a week after I came back. Both names were now on the map. And both had been near me when I returned from the woods. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just a haunting. This was a circle, a cycle. Anyone who touched the map, anyone who saw what wasn't meant to be seen, got marked. even if they didn't know it, even if they were just nearby. And some of us, we came back different. There's something I never told anyone, not even my mother. When they found me after those 2 days missing, I kept saying something over and over, 3 words. The dirt remembers. I didn't know what it meant. Still don't. But now I understand enough to be scared of it. Because last night, I went into the backyard. I don't know what made me do it. I just started digging. I dug for hours, hands raw, knees soaked, and there in the dirt, about a foot down, I found something I never should have. My old shoes. Child-sized, caked in dried blood, still laced, still warm. I ran inside and stared at myself in the mirror, and for the first time in weeks I didn't recognize my own face. A soft, low whisper behind the mirror, "You're still down here." I smashed the glass. Behind it, no wall, just dirt. Packed tight, like the house had grown around a grave. I reached inside, pulled a handful out, and I swear I felt a heartbeat. This map, it doesn't lead to a cemetery. The cemetery is the surface. The map leads underneath, to something that's always been here. A network of tunnels, roots, bones. It's not just death down there. It's memory. Twisted, rotting, alive, and it remembers every step I've taken. I don't know if I ever came back, right? I don't even know if I'm alive anymore. All I know is this. If you see the map, don't follow it. Don't try to burn it. Don't try to hide it, because the dirt remembers, and it's already marked you. The oak tree at the center of the cemetery had always stood out. It was too large, too gnarled. Its roots were so wide they had cracked open nearby tombstones, wrapping around them like fingers. I'd avoided it. Everyone had. But now I could see the lines on the map clearly. Thin red threads that weaved under the soil like veins. All of them converged beneath the tree. That's where it all led. That's where it had started. That's where I had started. I waited until dark. Not because I was brave. Because I didn't want to be seen. Because if I was right, if what lived beneath that oak could see daylight, it wouldn't need the map anymore. It could just come. So I packed a flashlight, the map, and a rusted shovel and walked back into the cemetery like I was returning to my own grave. The oak was worse up close. Its bark looked like stretched skin. Its roots twitched when I stepped near. And under the base, barely visible beneath leaves and dirt, was a wooden hatch. Handmade, old, almost human-sized. I climbed down into the dark. The tunnel was older than anything I'd seen. Stone walls, carved symbols, bones, human bones crammed into pockets in the rock like forgotten tools. And all along the walls, scratched into the stone, maps, hundreds of them, each one different. Each one showing graves, some with names I'd seen, some with names I hadn't yet, some with my name over and over in different years. At the end of the tunnel was a door, wood, painted black, covered in carvings that hurt my eyes to look at. I shouldn't have opened it, but I did. Inside was a room, round, stone, and alive with flickering candlelight, despite no one else being there. In the center, a table, and on that table, a massive version of the map, but not made of paper. It was flesh, stretched skin, sewn at the edges. The roads and graves were carved into it, burned in, and where the red ink should have been, real blood. Still wet, still warm and moving. It flowed like it was searching for something. That's when I realized this wasn't a copy. This was the source, the original. All the other maps were just reflections, pieces. But this thing was alive, and it knew I was there. A sharp, clicking sound. Then another, then dozens. Something approaches. The breathing in the walls got louder, and from the tunnels behind me, shapes started moving. Figures I recognized, faces I hadn't seen since I was a child. The missing, the dead, the forgotten, all crawling back to this room beneath the oak, to the map, to me. One stepped forward. Its skin was gone, just raw red muscle and empty eye sockets. But when it spoke, I knew the voice. It was mine. "You came back. Good. We've been drawing you again. I backed away, but there was nowhere to run because the door was gone. The walls were pulsing now, breathing, and on the flesh map my name bled in fresh, violent strokes, carved directly into the skin.
We are the ink. You don't find the map, it finds you. It's not a guide, it's a blueprint. And every step you take fills it in. You're not the map maker, you're the next layer.
I don't know how long I stood there. My hand was shaking. My legs barely worked. The flesh map was still leaking blood, and my name just kept getting deeper. It wasn't just writing me down, it was carving me in. And then I heard the scratching. Not a rat, not movement, writing. Somewhere deeper in the tunnel, something was still writing, scribbling on parchment, or maybe not parchment at all. I followed the sound because I had to, because I couldn't leave, because by then I wasn't just in the map, I was becoming it. The passage narrowed the further I went. The walls weren't stone anymore, they were books, not normal books, each bound in leather, old, weathered, too soft, too familiar. Names were burned into their spines, hundreds, thousands, and one shelf had a book with my name. I opened it. The first page was a birth certificate, mine. The second, a photo of me asleep in my bed taken from the hallway. The timestamp was last night. Every page was filled with details of my life, dates I didn't even remember, private thoughts, things I never told anyone. Then, the last page, blank, except for a single line written in something brown and sticky, to be completed below. I dropped the book, because I finally understood what this place was. It wasn't a tomb, it was a library, a collection of lives, of deaths, of maps. At the bottom of the stairs was a door, wider than any I'd seen down there. Carved into it, not with paint, but with deep gouges, was a word repeated 3 times. Cartographer. Screaming wind beyond the door, and underneath, the sound of a quill scratching on wet skin. I opened it, and there, at a massive desk made of coffin wood, sat him. Not alive, not quite dead, covered in scrolls stained in ink that hissed on contact, eyes hollow, fingers bone, but still writing, endlessly. I didn't speak, I didn't have to. He looked up and pointed behind me, and there, pinned to the wall, was a map larger than the rest. The whole town, every house, every street, and on every grave, a string of red threads leading back to one spot. My bedroom. He stood, bones creaking, ink running from the holes in his hands. He placed one finger on my chest, and suddenly I remembered everything. The woods, the day I vanished, the thing I had agreed to without understanding. I wasn't just a lost kid. I had been chosen to carry the map, to pass it on, to feed it. Because the map doesn't just record the dead, it hunts them, one life at a time, a soul for every grave. And now that I had found the cartographer, it was my turn. A quill drags across parchment, a name is whispered, it's your own. He handed me the quill and pointed to the blank book, my book, the final line waiting. And I knew, if I wrote it, that would be the end. I'd take his place, the ink would bind me, and the map would live on. So here's the truth, there is no destroying the map, there's only passing it on. Someone has to record the dead. Someone has to remember. And if you're hearing this, if you feel the urge to draw or dig or map, you already know what comes next. Because the cartographer's seat is empty now, and you're next in line. I didn't write the line, not yet. But the quill never left my hand. It pulsed like a heartbeat. The ink on the desk moved like a living thing, spreading across pages I hadn't touched. And then I saw it. The map, changing by itself, graves being scratched out, names reappearing, and in one corner, a house that didn't exist before, my childhood home. But not as I remembered it. This version was cracked open like a rotten fruit. And inside, me, sleeping. I ran, back through the shelves, up the stairs, past the bleeding oak and the graves that now whispered when I passed. But when I reached the surface, the cemetery was wrong. Every tree was in the same place, every path, but the names on the graves changed, all of them. Different people, some I recognized, some I didn't. One had today's date on it, mine. I rushed into town, but it wasn't town anymore. It was a replica, like someone tried to rebuild it from memory. Shops were in the wrong order. My street ended in a cul-de-sac that never existed. People walked past, but their faces were blank, literally gone. Just smooth skin and flickering shadows where eyes should be. I called out to someone. He turned slowly, and I swear, it was my best friend from high school, but he moved like he was underwater. His head tilted, spine cracking, and he said in my voice, "You left the book open." It wasn't just the cemetery anymore. The whole town had become part of the map. Every step I took filled in another line. Every second I hesitated, someone I knew was rewritten. A woman walked past holding a leash, but there was no dog. A child was riding a bike down a street that looped into itself, never ending. And above it all, in the sky, lines, thin red veins, as if the map was being drawn across the sky itself. I made it home, or what used to be home. The door creaked open before I touched it. Inside was myself, sitting at the table, writing, but not with the quill, with my own fingers, dipped in ink, scratching words onto the walls. He looked at me, the other me, and whispered, "We can't both leave." Then he smiled, but only on one side of his face. The rest sagged like melting wax, his skin peeled, and underneath wasn't bone, it was paper, yellowed, marked with hundreds of tiny, screaming faces. My handwriting, all of them. I tried to run, but the doors weren't doors anymore. They were covers, book covers, pages unfolded around me. I saw stories, mine, theirs, yours, written in loops never ending. Each time someone picked up the map, it rewrote the reader. This isn't just a curse, it's a system, a ritual, a record. And now the map doesn't wait to be found. It finds homes. In thoughts, in dreams, in listeners. You felt something just now, didn't you? That flicker in your chest? That pressure behind your eyes? That's the ink. Breathing. I don't know what day it is anymore. Not because I lost track, but because the days themselves have started to repeat. Sometimes I wake up at home, sometimes back in the cemetery, and once in a room full of mirrors, each showing a different version of me. One was dead, one was smiling, one had no eyes, but all of them were writing. I tried to stop. I threw the map into the fire. It screamed. Ink bubbled like blood, but it didn't burn. It just moved out of the fire, up the walls, across the ceiling, like it was looking for another way in. I went to the town center. I tried to warn people, told them what was happening, but no one listened. They looked at me like I was the outsider, like I didn't belong. And that's when I saw it. A new missing person flyer. The face, mine, but not my current face. It was the photo from years ago, the one they used when I vanished, the one that shouldn't exist anymore, because I came back, didn't I? I found my brother's house, banged on the door. He answered, smiled, but behind him was another version of me, sitting at the table, drinking coffee. I screamed. He asked who I was, said his brother died years ago, drowned in a cemetery pond as a kid, said they found a map clutched in his tiny waterlogged hand. I ran until the streets bent upward and the sky became paper, because suddenly I wasn't sure anymore. Had I ever made it out, or was I just a rewrite? Here's the part no one tells you. When you inherit the map, you don't get to choose whether you write or not. You just start recording. Thoughts, voices, dreams. Every time someone nearby dies, your fingers twitch. You see it before it happens. And if you don't write it down, it happens worse. Painfully, messily, like the map punishes you for breaking the pattern. And one night I saw a name appear. Someone close, too close. My brother. I watched the ink form the letters on the page. First name, last name, date of death, tomorrow. I tried everything. Called him, warned him, begged him to leave town, but the next day he was gone. No trace, no body, not even the memory. His wife didn't remember marrying him, his kids didn't remember he existed. And that's when it clicked. The map doesn't just kill, it erases. Completely, as if they were never born, and all that's left is the record. The map. A knock, 3 times, very slow. Then a 4th knock, softer, hesitant. Someone came to my motel door that night. I didn't open it. I looked through the peephole, and on the other side, me. Another version, covered in ink like veins made of black thread. He looked straight at me and whispered, "You stopped writing?" Then he smiled, held up a book, my name on the spine, and crossed out the last page. Now I understand. The cartographer doesn't live in the cemetery, he lives in whoever's left. The map doesn't want to be destroyed, it wants to spread. Every time someone listens to this story, every time they imagine the pages, they add to the map. And one day, they'll get a knock too. There was one grave left, mine, but this time it wasn't just a headstone, it was a mirror, carved from polished black stone, and in it I didn't see myself, I saw the cartographer. But his face had changed, it was mine now. Because somewhere along the way I stopped trying to escape and started documenting. I followed the map one last time. The lines had grown thick, veins, not ink. The paper pulsed like skin, and on the other side of the bridge stood the door. No handle, no lock, only a single word scratched into it. Choose. Not run, not burn, not fight. Just choose. 2 paths. One in front of me, one beneath me. The first was through the door, becoming the new cartographer, the record keeper, immortal but trapped, writing every death, every scream, every whisper from a grave. The second, drop the book, let it fall, destroy it, and with it, everything it ever recorded, all the forgotten names, all the lost souls trapped in its pages. My brother, myself, you. I opened the book. Its last page was still blank. A single drop of ink rested on the corner. Waiting, pulsing, alive. I could feel the weight of every name written before mine, the ones no one remembered, the ones who weren't buried, but were replaced, erased. The cemetery wasn't a place anymore. It was a ledger, a list of people the world doesn't remember, except the map does. And maybe that's worse. I made my choice, but not by writing, by remembering. I looked at the book, closed it, and whispered every name I could recall, even the ones I barely knew, even yours. And then I let it fall. The pages burst into ash, the lines curled in on themselves, the bridge cracked, the door dissolved, and the world around me collapsed into dust and whispers. I woke up in my bed, not a copy, not a dream, the real one. The sun was shining, birds were chirping, and the cemetery, it was empty. Just grass, no graves, no mausoleum, just a big open field, like nothing had ever been buried there. But I remember everything, and now it's getting harder. Faces blur, names fade, memories of that place thinning. Like the map is still taking something from me, piece by piece. Maybe that's its revenge, or maybe I didn't stop it. Maybe I just became its last author, the one who holds the final draft. You're hearing this now, which means I passed the story on, which means the map, some part of it, survived. If tonight you hear paper rustling when there is no breeze, if you dream of cemeteries that don't appear on any GPS, if you find a folded map under your pillow or at the foot of your bed, don't open it. But if you already have, write it down, all of it, before it forgets you first, because the map doesn't hunt you, it replaces you.